Welcome to this podcast on the First Amendment of the Constitution of India, 1951. The Constitution First Amendment Act, 1951 made several changes to the fundamental rights provision of the Indian Constitution. It provided means to restrict freedom of speech and expression, validation of zamindari abolition laws, and clarified that the right to equality does not bar the enactment of laws which provide special consideration for weaker sections of society. The formal title of the amendment is the Constitution First Amendment Act 1951. It was moved by the then Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, on 10th May 1951 and enacted by Parliament on 18th June 1951. This amendment set the precedent of amending the Constitution to overcome judicial judgments impeding fulfillment of the government's perceived responsibilities to particular policies and programs. Let's take a look at the freedom of speech. In 1950, a weekly journal in English, Crossroads, published by Ramesh Thapar, was banned by the Madras state for publishing critical views on Nehruvian policy, who petitioned the Supreme Court, which led to the landmark judgment in Ramesh Thapar vs. the State of Madras on 26 May 1950. The tussle to censor media also continued when, in response to severe criticism in the press about its response to the refugee influx in West Bengal and extrajudicial killings of communist activists in Madras, the government felt the need to restrict media. Eventually, in 1951, Nehru administration made a provision limiting Article 19(1)(a) of Constitution of India against abuse of freedom of speech and expression. Some courts had held the citizens' right to freedom of speech and expression guaranteed by Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution of India to be so comprehensive as not to render a person culpable even if he advocates murder and other crimes of violence. The Congress government noted that in other countries with written constitutions, freedom of speech and of the press is not regarded as debarring the state from punishing or preventing abuse of this freedom. The opposition disagreed, reminding Parliament of First Amendment to the United States Constitution, where state was barred from curbing fundamental freedom that form the essence of democracy. Furthermore, it warned that restricting freedom of speech would lead to abuse by the state and drastically impact the democratic freedom of citizens. The majority government of Congress ignored the opposition's concerns. Freedom of trade. The right of citizens of India to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business conferred by Article 19(1)(g) is subject to reasonable restrictions which the law of the state may impose in the interest of general public. While the words cited are comprehensive enough to cover any scheme of nationalization, it was thought desirable to place the matter beyond doubt by a clarificatory addition to Article 19(6). Upholding land reforms. The Parliament of India noted that validity of agrarian reform measures passed by the state legislatures had, in spite of the provisions of Clause 4 and 6 of Article 31, formed the subject matter of dilatory litigation, as a result of which the implementation of these important measures, affecting large numbers of people, had been held up. Accordingly, a new Article 31(a) was introduced to uphold such measures in the future. Further, another new Article 31(b) with retrospective effect was introduced to validate 13 enactments relating to zamindari abolition. Equality. It is laid down in Article 46 as a directive principle of state policy that the state should promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the people and protect them from social injustice. In order that any special provision that the state may make for the educational, economic, and social advancement of any backward class of citizens may not be challenged on the ground of being discriminatory, Article 15(3) was suitably amplified. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast on the First Amendment of the Constitution of India.